Captain Elias Munro had always believed that diplomacy was a quiet, controlled art. Negotiations, treaties, and formal ceremonies, these were the tools of a liaison like him. But when he was assigned as humanity's representative to the alien delegation, everything changed. The aliens, tall, elegant beings with skin that shimmered like liquid metal and eyes that glowed softly in the dark, were unlike anything Elias had ever imagined. Among them, one figure stood out, Varel, the lead diplomat. Graceful, mysterious, and infinitely patient, Varel carried an aura that made Elias both fascinated and nervous. This was the kind of assignment that could define a career or end it. The embassy itself was a marvel of human and alien collaboration. High ceilings reflected soft, iridescent lights, and corridors seemed to shift subtly as if alive. Elias spent his first days walking through this strange place, observing the aliens carefully. They moved with precision and confidence, yet there was something vulnerable in the way they communicated with one another. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Elias noticed it. Humans were unique in their openness of emotion, he thought, and maybe that is why Varel had agreed to meet them at all. Late one evening, after a long day of formal briefings, Elias found himself walking alone in the quiet corridors. Most of the alien staff had already retired to their quarters, and the soft hum of the embassy's life support systems was the only sound. As he passed by Varel's private chambers, a strange shimmer caught his eye. At first he thought it was a trick of the lights, but then he realized Varel was changing. Their form rippled and shifted, like water taking the shape of the surrounding vessel. Arms elongated and shortened, facial features softened and reformed. Elias froze in place, heart pounding, realizing he was witnessing something intimate and forbidden. Guilt hit him immediately. He knew he shouldn't be watching. Alien diplomacy had strict boundaries, and Varel's transformation was a private matter. But curiosity, that stubborn human trait, held him in place. Every instinct told him to look away, yet he couldn't. There was something mesmerizing in the way Varel's form melted into a version of themselves that almost resembled a human. Elias felt a strange connection, as if he were glimpsing not just the alien body but a hidden part of their soul. A whisper broke the silence. Elias spun around, fear crashing over him. Varel was standing there, half in their alien form, half in human-like guise, watching him carefully. Elias expected anger, a reprimand, perhaps even expulsion from the embassy. But instead, Varel's gaze was calm, measured, and piercingly curious. "You've seen what you shouldn't," Varel said softly. Their voice was melodic, almost hypnotic, carrying an undertone of amusement rather than anger. Elias swallowed hard, words failing him. I didn't mean to. I was just," he stammered. Varel tilted their head as if studying not only his words but the very intention behind them. After a long moment, they smiled, a gesture so human, so unexpectedly warm that Elias felt a strange sense of relief. "Curiosity is not a crime," Varel finally said, "but it is dangerous. Do you understand?" Elias nodded, heart racing. Over the next few days, Elias found it impossible to forget what he had seen. Varel's transformation lingered in his mind, not as a secret shame, but as a strange, beautiful mystery. He realized that this was not just about diplomacy. It was about trust, vulnerability, and the fragile connection between beings from different worlds. Humans were emotional, impulsive, and unpredictable, and perhaps that was why Varel had chosen to engage with them. Elias began to notice other details about Varel, the way they observed humans with quiet fascination, the subtle ways they tried to mirror human expressions, and the rare flashes of emotion that peeked through their otherwise composed demeanor. Each day, Elias felt both nervous and honored. He was seeing history unfold in a way few humans ever would. One evening, as he walked past the private chambers again, Elias paused. He felt a new kind of courage, a desire not just to witness but to understand. He wanted to know Varel, to know their mind, their thoughts, their heart. He realized something profound. Humans had something to offer the universe beyond technology, beyond strategy. Their ability to feel, to hope, and to connect was rare. Perhaps that was humanity's true strength, and perhaps Varel already knew it. The moment passed and Elias turned to leave, but the weight of it stayed with him. He had crossed a boundary, yes, but in doing so, he had glimpsed something extraordinary. And deep down he sensed that this moment, this quiet, forbidden observation would shape everything that came next. For the first time in his life, Elias understood that being human was not just about survival. It was about courage, curiosity, and the strange, unexplainable power of the heart. Elias could not shake the memory of what he had seen. Virel's transformation replayed in his mind like a vivid dream, each ripple of their body, each glowing pulse of their eyes etched into his thoughts. He had told himself it was an accident, a fleeting glimpse, but the truth was more complicated. Humans were not meant to be passive observers of such wonders. Curiosity was in their blood, and Elias's curiosity burned brighter every time he thought of Virel. That evening, he found himself wandering the embassy again, drawn inexplicably to the private quarters. The soft hum of the lights and the distant murmur of the alien staff created a quiet cocoon around him. He paused outside the door, guilt pressing on his chest like a weight, but wonder urging him forward. For a moment he debated leaving, yet the pull was irresistible. He had to see just once more. As he peeked through the slightly ajar door, Virel was there, mid-transformation. The air shimmered around them, bending the light, and Elias felt a mix of awe and fear. There was something deeply personal about watching this, something intimate that no human had ever witnessed. But before he could avert his eyes, Virel's voice cut through the silence like a calm wave. "You are here again," they said, not accusing, but observing. Elias froze, shame and fear crashing over him. He expected anger, but Virel's tone was different, soft, patient, and strangely inviting. "Why do you watch, Elias?" Elias swallowed hard. His hands were clammy, heart racing like a drum. I don't know," he admitted. I wanted to understand. I wanted to know you, not as a diplomat, but as someone real." His words stumbled out, simple, unpolished, but sincere. Virel's glowing eyes softened, and for a moment, Elias thought he could see emotion flicker across their features. Something akin to human curiosity, or perhaps empathy. "Humans are honest in strange ways," Virel murmured. "You cannot help yourself from feeling, from wanting to see beyond the surface. I find that fascinating." A warmth spread through Elias, a mixture of relief and wonder. He had expected reprimand, but instead he was met with acknowledgement. Something unspoken passed between them, a quiet connection that bridged the immense gap between their worlds. Elias realized then that humanity's strength lay not in technology, strategy, or power, but in the ability to feel, to care, to risk vulnerability for understanding. Over the following days, Virel began to treat him differently. Their interactions became less formal, more personal. Virel shared insights about their culture, their species, and even their fears, concepts that no other human diplomat had ever glimpsed. Elias listened, heart open, amazed at the depth behind the graceful alien exterior. They spoke of things abstract yet profoundly human: loneliness, hope, trust, and curiosity. Each word made Elias feel both privileged and humbled. Yet this new connection carried danger. Rumors swirled in the alien council about human unpredictability. Elias overheard whispers of mistrust, of doubts about whether humans were ready to interact with a species so advanced. The realization struck him like a cold wind. Virel's trust was rare, and it might not be enough to shield him from scrutiny. Humans were seen as fragile, emotional, impulsive. Elias understood then that curiosity, the very trait that had brought him to Virel, could also place them both at risk. Despite the tension, Elias could not step back. Every moment with Virel felt essential, like the universe had conspired to teach him something he had always known but never understood: that humans had something unique to offer the cosmos. Not strength, not dominance, not sheer intelligence, but heart. The ability to feel, to connect, and to act with courage in the face of uncertainty. One evening, as they stood under a holographic sky that mirrored distant stars, Virel turned to him, their voice softer than ever. "You remind me why we came here," they said. "Not to conquer, not to command, but to understand. Humans are extraordinary, Elias, in ways we do not fully comprehend." Elias's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to tell them that humans often felt small and powerless, yet here they were, recognized as remarkable by a species centuries ahead in technology. He nodded quietly, letting the moment sink in. In that silence, he realized that the bridge between human and alien was built not on treaties or laws, but on shared understanding, curiosity, and the courage to see beyond what was safe and known. As he walked back to his quarters that night, heart still racing, Elias knew something had shifted. He had witnessed something extraordinary, yes, but more importantly, he had been seen, truly seen, by another being. And in that recognition, he felt a spark of hope. The first real proof that humanity's unique strength, their heart, their courage, and their empathy, might change the galaxy in ways no one had yet imagined. Days passed, and Elias found himself drawn deeper into the life of the embassy. Each meeting, each protocol, each carefully measured conversation seemed to carry an undercurrent of something more, something unspoken between him and Varel. The diplomat no longer spoke only in formal, precise language. Sometimes they would pause mid-sentence, studying Elias with an intensity that made his heart pound, and then continue as if nothing had happened. But Elias knew. He felt it too. Something fragile, something precious was growing. Varel began inviting Elias into spaces that were normally off-limits to humans. They showed him private archives, ancient records of their people, and even experimental technologies that human minds had yet to comprehend. But it wasn't just knowledge they shared. It was understanding, insight into the subtle ways their species thought and felt. Elias listened, sometimes in awe, sometimes with tears threatening his eyes. He had never imagined he would witness this level of trust from a being so powerful, so alien. One evening, while they walked through a corridor lit by soft, bioluminescent panels, Varel spoke quietly. "Your kind is unpredictable," they said. "You feel, you act, you take risks. Most of us cannot understand this. But it is uncompelling. It is rare." Elias looked at them, unsure how to respond. "I don't know if we're special," he admitted. "We're fragile, impulsive, and we make mistakes all the time." His voice carried a mixture of humility and hope. Varel paused, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Perhaps," they said, "that is what makes you remarkable. Fragility, courage, hope, these things are not weaknesses, they are proof of life itself." Elias felt a shiver run through him. To be called remarkable by a species that had mastered the stars felt surreal. His chest tightened, and he realized he was beginning to care, not just as a diplomat but personally, deeply. As their interactions continued, Elias noticed something subtle in Varel's behavior. When humans entered a room, Varel's attention never wavered from him. When discussions became tense, Varel would glance at Elias, seeking reassurance or silently communicating understanding. It was a language without words, and Elias felt honored to be part of it. For the first time, he sensed the full weight of trust, the invisible thread connecting two beings from entirely different worlds. Yet with this closeness came danger. Elias overheard whispers from other aliens questioning the wisdom of Varel's favoritism. "Humans are reckless," one murmured. "They will bring disaster if allowed access to our councils." Another voice hissed, "You risk our people's safety by trusting them." Elias's stomach churned. It wasn't only curiosity that had put him here. It was the very heart of humanity. Admired by Varel, but scrutinized by others who saw it as a weakness. One night, Elias and Varel sat on a balcony overlooking the City of Lights, its architecture alien yet breathtaking. The stars reflected on the glassy surfaces of distant towers, and a strange peace settled over them. Varel spoke softly, their voice almost hesitant. "You humans, you surprise me. You are emotional, reckless, fragile. And yet when the world is uncertain, you act with courage. You fight not for control, not for power, but because it matters. Because you care, that is extraordinary." Elias turned to look at them, his throat tight with emotion. "I never thought we were anything special," he said quietly. "We stumble, we fail, we hurt. But we try, we hope. We fight for things we love. That's all we have." Varel's eyes shimmered, and for a moment Elias could see a depth of feeling that was almost human. "That is why I trust you," they whispered. "That is why I chose to spend time with you." Elias felt a rush of warmth he had never experienced before. Trust, recognition, connection. Humans had always been told they were small, insignificant, fragile. But here, in the presence of Varel, he understood that fragility was not weakness. It was proof of heart. It was proof that humans could reach across galaxies and touch something beyond themselves, not with weapons or technology, but with emotion, courage, and understanding. As they sat together in silence, the lights of the alien city flickering below them, Elias realized something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were extraordinary beings capable of connection, hope, and bravery. And Varel, in trusting him, had acknowledged that power. It was a quiet revelation, yet one that would change everything Elias believed about humanity and about himself. That night, as he returned to his quarters, Elias carried a new sense of purpose. He had been seen, truly seen, and it had awakened something inside him. Humans were remarkable not because they conquered, but because they cared, because they risked, because they believed in hope even when the odds were impossible. And Elias knew that whatever came next, whatever danger, challenge, or choice, the strength of the human heart would endure. The calm Elias had felt in the presence of Varel began to unravel the moment he overheard the alien council's whispers. In the grand halls of the embassy, behind polished walls and glowing panels, a storm was brewing. Some council members were growing impatient with Varel's fascination with humans. They called it reckless, even dangerous. Elias, though human and unarmed in the ways of alien politics, felt a chill. Curiosity and courage had brought him here, but now they could also bring catastrophe. He watched from the shadows one afternoon as the council convened. Alien delegates, tall and elegant, circled the chamber, their voices low but sharp. "They are unpredictable," one said, their tone like ice. "They will disrupt the balance we have maintained for centuries." Another added, "We cannot allow their emotions to dictate decisions that affect us all." Elias's stomach twisted. Humans were not just under observation anymore. They were being judged. And the stakes were far higher than he had imagined. Varel, as always, remained composed. They stood in the center, calm but firm, facing criticism with unwavering poise. "Humans are not perfect," Varel admitted. "They make mistakes. But their strengths, courage, empathy, ingenuity, are qualities that many species lack. Underestimating them would be a grave error." Elias felt a surge of pride. Varel was defending humanity, their trust a shield against the storm. Yet he also sensed the tension. The council's opinion held weight, and even Varel might not withstand the pressure alone. That evening, Elias confronted his own fears. He realized that his role was no longer passive observation. He was part of a story larger than himself, a story where humanity's value was being tested on a scale beyond any war or challenge he had faced. His heart pounded as he thought of Varel, how much trust they had placed in him, and how much that trust might cost both of them if the council's anger turned to action. The next few days were tense. Meetings became battlegrounds of subtle argument and strategic persuasion. Elias watched Varel navigate each interaction with grace, but he could see the strain in their eyes. Even beings as powerful and intelligent as Varel were vulnerable when emotions, trust, and morality clashed with tradition and protocol. Elias felt helpless and determined at the same time. Humans were supposed to be small players in the galaxy, yet here he was witnessing the galaxy bending, testing, and measuring humanity itself. Late one night, Varel invited Elias to a secluded observation deck overlooking the city. The alien skyline glittered under twin moons, and soft winds hummed through the balcony. Varel turned to him, voice low and serious. "They doubt you. They doubt humanity, and yet I do not." Elias felt a lump in his throat. I don't know if we can withstand it," he admitted, voice trembling. "We're not like you. We're fragile. We're small." Varel reached out, a hand brushing against his shoulder, a gesture of comfort and confidence. "Fragility is not weakness," they said. "It is evidence of life, of spirit, of courage. You are not small. You are remarkable, and together, we will show them why." Elias's heart swelled. For the first time, he truly understood that humans had a strength that could not be measured by technology or strategy alone. Their power was emotional, moral, and unyielding. The following day brought confrontation. The council summoned Varel for a formal hearing, and Elias followed, as close as discretion allowed. Inside the chamber, accusations flew like sharpened arrows. Humans were reckless, unpredictable, ill-prepared. Elias's stomach churned with fear, but he held on to Varel's words. They had placed trust in humanity, and that trust would not be betrayed. As Varel spoke, Elias noticed something extraordinary. The diplomat's defense was not just logic, it was passion, respect, and truth. They described human achievements, human courage, human morality. They reminded the council that a species capable of empathy and hope could accomplish what even centuries of strategy could not. Elias's chest tightened with awe and pride. Humanity was being defended not with weapons but with heart. By the time the council recessed, Elias felt a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. The political storm was far from over, but he had witnessed something profound. Even in the face of doubt and hostility, humanity's worth could shine through. And he realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about standing for truth, hope, and connection even when the odds seemed impossible. That night, as he lay in his quarters, Elias understood the weight of what had begun. Humans were no longer passive observers of the galaxy. They were participants being measured, tested, and, most importantly, recognized. And at the center of it all was a fragile, remarkable bond between a human and an alien who had dared to see beyond appearances. The following days were heavy with tension. Elias felt it in every corridor he walked, in every conversation he overheard, and even in the quiet hum of the embassy's lights. The alien council's doubts about humanity had grown louder, more insistent. Rumors spread that humans should be restricted from participating in interstellar matters, that their impulsiveness could endanger entire worlds. Elias's stomach twisted with fear. The very species he had spent his life trusting and representing was now being judged as fragile and reckless. He watched Varel from a distance, noting the subtle changes in their posture, the rare flickers of emotion that no diplomat should show in public. They were calm, composed, but Elias knew the weight of the council's scrutiny pressed down on them. And more than that, Elias knew that humanity's survival in this delicate web depended on both of them. Their trust in humans was strong, but would it be enough against centuries of rigid alien tradition? Late one night, he overheard part of a council session he wasn't supposed to hear. Alien voices whispered sharp, cutting words. "We must limit their access," one said. "They are dangerous to the balance we maintain. Their kind cannot be allowed to influence our decisions." Another voice added, "Varel's judgment is clouded by sentiment. We cannot risk humanity's recklessness spreading to other species." Elias felt a chill. This was no longer diplomacy. It was a test of survival. Elias knew he could not remain passive. Humanity's fate and the trust Varel had placed in him demanded action. But how could one human alone stand against an alien council with centuries of experience and authority? He thought of what Varel had said in the quiet moments they shared, that humans had courage, heart, and ingenuity. Perhaps those qualities, often dismissed as weaknesses, were exactly what could tip the scales. He spent the next hours devising a plan. He studied council protocols, communication patterns, and security measures. He knew direct confrontation would fail, but subtle strategy, human intuition, and bold improvisation might work. Varel, sensing his determination, did not stop him. Instead, they whispered encouragement, reminding him that human strength was not in brute force, but in courage, adaptability, and the ability to connect with others. The day of action came. Elias, guided by Varel's insight, moved quietly through the embassy's chambers, delivering critical evidence of humanity's achievements, their role in resolving past crises, and proof that their empathy and moral compass had saved countless lives across both Earth and allied worlds. Each piece of information was carefully framed, showing not just technological or strategic merit, but the very qualities that made humans exceptional: hope, courage, and compassion. The council listened, their whispers fading as they absorbed the evidence. Elias could feel the tension in the room, thick and suffocating. Every second stretched into an eternity. He glanced at Varel, whose eyes glimmered with pride and quiet reassurance. Together they had turned human traits, things often dismissed as weaknesses, into undeniable proof of worth. Then, a final moment of risk. Elias presented a case study of a recent interstellar crisis where human intuition and moral judgment had prevented disaster. It was a gamble. The council had expected diplomacy, technology, and analysis. But Elias had chosen something more human. Raw, emotional truth. The room was silent. Alien delegates staring at the data, some mouths slightly agape, others scowling in disbelief. Varel stepped forward, speaking with measured authority. They echoed Elias's points, reinforcing humanity's courage and moral integrity. "They are not reckless," Varel said, voice strong and unwavering. "They are brave, empathetic, and capable of seeing solutions where others see only obstacles. Humanity's strength lies not in power but in heart. That heart must be acknowledged." Elias felt his chest tighten, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The council would deliberate, and there was no certainty, but for the first time he saw a glimmer of hope. Humans were being recognized for what truly set them apart: their spirit. The qualities that had often been overlooked, curiosity, courage, and compassion, were now the very weapons that might secure their future. As the chamber emptied and the echo of Virel's words faded, Elias exhaled deeply. He knew the road ahead was still uncertain, but one truth burned in his mind. Humans were extraordinary, not because they dominated or destroyed, but because they dared to feel, to care, and to act when it mattered most. And that extraordinary strength, once underestimated, was now their greatest hope. The council chamber was silent. Every alien delegate watched closely as the evidence Elias had gathered was laid bare before them. The air felt heavy, thick with expectation and judgment. Elias stood beside Virel, heart pounding, hands clenched at his sides. This was the moment when humanity's worth would be measured, not by weapons, not by technology, but by courage, empathy, and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. Virel's presence beside him was steadying. The diplomat's calm, glowing eyes met his own, silently reminding him of everything they had shared: trust, hope, and understanding. Elias drew a deep breath. He had spoken to the council, presented humanity's achievements, and revealed the core of what made humans remarkable. Now it was time to watch and hope that the council's rigid minds could see the truth. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates whispered among themselves, questioning, doubting. Others leaned forward, studying the data, intrigued by the examples of human courage in crises, human empathy in negotiations, and human ingenuity in solving problems that seemed impossible. Elias felt a flicker of hope. Slowly, the room began to shift. The council's rigid skepticism met evidence of the human heart, and it was undeniable. Then Virel spoke. Their voice carried across the chamber, calm, authoritative, and full of emotion. "This is what humans bring to the galaxy," they said. "Not merely technology or strategy, but something rarer, stronger, and more enduring. They act because they care. They fight because hope drives them. Their courage is a force, and it cannot be ignored." Elias felt a surge of pride. The diplomat's words were not just defense, they were recognition, acknowledgement of humanity's true worth. The council deliberated, long and tense. Delegates debated, whispered, and argued. But every point made by Elias and Virel had left an impression. Even the most skeptical members could not deny the evidence of human valor, intelligence, and compassion. Hours stretched like days, but Elias refused to waver. He stood tall, heart racing, and reminded himself of everything he had learned in these past weeks. Humans were not fragile. They were extraordinary. Finally, the decision came. The council, by majority, acknowledged humanity as a worthy partner in interstellar diplomacy. Cheers were muted, careful but present. Elias exhaled, relief flooding him. He had felt the weight of uncertainty, the fear of failure, and now, the truth shone through. Humans had been recognized for their courage, their heart, and their spirit. Virel turned to him, eyes shining. "You have done more than I ever imagined, Elias," they said softly. "You have shown them what humanity is, and you have done it with honesty, courage, and heart. I am proud of you." Elias felt a lump in his throat. We couldn't have done it without you," he replied. "You trusted us. You believed in humans when no one else did." For the first time, Elias truly understood the power of human traits that others often dismissed: hope, empathy, courage, and resilience. They were not weaknesses. They were the very qualities that could bridge worlds, unite species, and change minds. Humanity had been tested, and they had passed, not through domination or fear, but through heart. As the chamber emptied, Elias and Virel walked together to the observation balcony, overlooking the alien city shimmering under twin moons. The stars reflected like scattered diamonds on the glassy towers. The city seemed quieter now, calmer, as if the recognition of humanity had shifted the balance of tension that had loomed over the embassy. Virel's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "You see, Elias, your kind is remarkable not because you dominate, but because you care, because you hope, because you dare to act even when the odds seem impossible." Elias nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. The weight of fear and doubt lifted, replaced by pride, gratitude, and awe. I think we're only beginning to realize it ourselves, Elias said. We often doubt our own strength, but maybe that's what makes us human. Maybe that's why we can achieve what others cannot. Varel's eyes shimmered with emotion, glowing softly in the dim light. Yes, Elias, and now others see it too. As they stood together, watching the alien city stretch into the distance, Elias felt a quiet certainty settle over him. Humanity had been recognized not by force but by courage, heart, and unwavering hope. And in that recognition he understood something profound. Humans were not just participants in the galaxy. They were remarkable, capable, and extraordinary. And this was only the beginning. The embassy was quiet that evening, a rare calm settling over its shimmering halls. Elias walked beside Varel on the observation balcony, the twin moons casting pale light over the alien city below. The events of the past days played in his mind like a vivid dream. From the moment he had accidentally witnessed Varel's transformation to the tense council hearings, humanity had been tested and recognized. The weight of that realization pressed gently on his chest, a mixture of pride, relief, and awe. Varel had chosen for the first time to appear in a human-like form beside him. Their glowing eyes softened, reflecting the pale moons above. Elias noticed the small gestures that revealed emotion, subtle shifts in posture, a quiet warmth in their gaze. For a being of incredible power and intellect, these signs of vulnerability were rare, and Elias felt honored to witness them. You have changed things, Elias, Varel said softly, voice carrying more emotion than ever. You have shown the council that humanity is more than they believed. You have shown them what it means to care, to act, to hope. You have made your species remarkable. Elias's throat tightened. Pride swelled, but so did humility. He had acted with courage, yes, but it was more than his own effort. It was the essence of humanity, the heart, the empathy, and the unyielding spirit that had carried the day. I don't feel remarkable, Elias admitted quietly. We're just humans. We stumble, we fight, we hope. That's all we ever do. Varel's expression softened. That is exactly why you are remarkable, they said. Your courage does not come from strength or power, but from your heart. That heart is rare. That heart is extraordinary. Elias felt a warmth spread through him, a glow of understanding he had never known. Humans were fragile in ways that others could not endure. Yet it was that very fragility that gave them strength. It was the capacity to feel, to care, and to act against fear that made them powerful beyond measure. Elias looked out over the city, its towers glowing under the moons, reflecting alien light and alien ambition. He thought of the council, skeptical and rigid, who had finally acknowledged humanity's worth. He thought of Varel, whose trust and guidance had turned fear into action and doubt into recognition. And he thought of humanity itself, often underestimated, often dismissed, but capable of courage, hope, and connection that could cross the boundaries of worlds. You see, Elias, Varel continued, their voice almost a whisper, this is only the beginning. Humans have potential others cannot even imagine. You have proven it, not through conquest or power, but through heart. And now your species will be seen differently, respected differently, feared in the best way. Feared because you care enough to act when others would hesitate. Elias nodded, absorbing the gravity of their words. Fear is a reflection of respect. It was a strange concept, but it fit perfectly. For a long while the two stood in silence. The air was cool and the alien night stretched endlessly around them. Elias's mind wandered, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. The accidental glance, the quiet moments of understanding, the tense deliberations of the council. Each step had been a test of character, a challenge to the very essence of what it meant to be human. And each step had proven something extraordinary. Humans were not weak. Humans were capable of greatness in ways even advanced alien species could not fully comprehend. Finally, Elias spoke, his voice steady and filled with quiet conviction. We may be small in the universe, Varel, but maybe small doesn't matter. Maybe what matters is what we do with our hearts, how we act when it counts, how we care when no one else does. Varel smiled, a gesture that transcended species, glowing softly in the pale light. Yes, Elias, that is what will endure. That is what makes humans extraordinary. And that is why I trust you, that is why I chose to see you, truly see you. As they stood together, looking out over a galaxy that had begun to recognize humanity in a new light, Elias felt something swell within him, a quiet pride, a deep humility, and an unshakable hope. Humans had been tested, and they had emerged stronger, not through dominance or force, but through courage, compassion, and heart. The twin moons cast their glow on the embassy, and Elias knew that the journey of humanity was only beginning. Across the stars, other species would see them, not as fragile, but as remarkable, and Elias, standing beside Varel, felt the weight and joy of that recognition. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be human, and it was magnificent.